Hey, it's Tristan here. So we're here with U.S. Party Company. So as we experience everything inside going on around us, I thought I would take this opportunity to kind of interview people in the balloon industry. So today we have Balloon Talk with Brady. Um, from I'll let him announce his balloon name because it's not two words separated, but it's Balloon-ertainment. I think is pretty much what he's trying to get at there. So take it away. Tell me exactly how the name's spelled.
Yeah, hey Tristan, thanks for having me. It's Balloon-ertainment. I thought it was clever. It may be like the branding death of me, but I thought it was clever when I first got in the industry and didn't know anything about branding. Then I spent a bunch of money on branding, so it's sticking.
Right.
It's
So
Balloon-ertainment.
how long now have you been in the industry? And are you more a twister decorator, or are you a little bit of both?
So I've been in the industry. April 1st would mark my 3-year anniversary of my first gig. And I started off as a twister, transitioned into a decorator, and I consider myself both. But right now I get more decorating work than twisting work. But I'm trying to work on balancing that out.
Right. So when was your first actual balloon convention? When did you actually take a commitment to actually go to a balloon convention?
My first convention actually was Float 2019. I didn't know much about the industry or conventions or anything like that. Matter of fact, you're the one that keyed me into Float, and so yeah, Float 2019 was my first convention.
Oh, thank you for that plug. We'll put the check in the mail. Um, so, as someone who attended a balloon convention, Float 2019, for the first time, I mean, sometimes it's overwhelming. Let's face it. It's uncharted territory, something new for us. What did you think when you got there? I mean, obviously, it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, so for me, it was very very interesting because going into it, it's branded as a convention for intermediate to advanced artists, and at the time I didn't consider myself anywhere near worthy of that kind of convention. And at the time, I also didn't know any other balloon artists in the area. So when I got there, I found myself in amazement of just the art. And everything that Jamar had made the display at the entrance there, and they had the big clown suit that you could wear. But I just tried to make the most of the convention. Um, I bought the float book, and I really just tried to take all the business classes and learn as much as I could, and communicate and make as many connections as I could, which have really kind of for me because I've made lots of friends in the industry, and I feel like I've grown astronomically as an artist just because I went to that convention.
It's funny you mentioned the clown because I remember that clown very fondly. You stood behind the clown
Yeah,
and you took a photo. And I
right.
remember at some point, I don't know if it was later in the night or what it was, but I remember actually holding on to the pipes and I literally started dancing with it. And at one point, one of the base plates went tink, boom, to the floor. And I thought to myself, oh my God, did I break the marble floor at the hotel? So, yeah, I remember that clown very well. I don't actually I was gonna look it up, but I know I don't want to scroll through a year's worth of photos and stuff. But that was pretty funny.
Right.
So you've been in business 3 years.
Yeah.
Have you been to any other conventions since?
I mean, I went to Float 2020, as you know. Um, I had to choose between Twist and Shout and Float this year. So I went back to Float this year, and then my intentions are hopefully this crisis will go away and recover and go to Twist and Shout next year, Los Angeles. That's the
Right.
plan, at least. So
So what do you, as someone who's been in the business a few years, what would your advice or suggestions be to someone who's just starting out in the balloon community, whether it
uh,
be a decorator or a twister?
be humble. Honestly, be humble. Find out who knows what they're talking about, and like follow them in the Facebook groups. Like one thing I used to do is I would just kind of ghost the Balloon Friends Facebook group, and I would see people would ask a lot of questions, and I didn't necessarily know the answers, but I would wait and see what certain experts would say whether it be Steve Jones, or Brenda Kovar Shelton or Christopher Weed, all go in there and they would respond, and I would just kind of see what they said, and I learned so much and gleaned so much information just from kind of ghosting the threads. And same thing with Balloon Twister Central. So just don't think that you know everything, and and then also make friends. Make friends with people, and there's a lot of mentor that I talk to on Annie McClung. I talk to her on the side. Raquel Porter, she helps me out on the side, and there's many others. But that would be my advice. Just be humble and learn what you can, and learn from the experts.
Now, I think we touched on this already, but I'll ask it anyway. What would you say some a mistake you made that you've learned from in the last 3 years? I noticed you touched on Brandon for a moment, and kind of I know you're in the shift of kind of a new Brandon atmosphere. So tell us a little bit about what you would do differently if you could do it over.
Well, definitely. I don't know if I would go with the same name. Um, I would probably honestly I would probably remain more of a hobbyist at first, and learn more about business before establishing as a business. The reason because I started as a twister, and I did some birthday parties, and then I had some requests for some decor work, and I did a theme party, if you understand what I'm saying, and I made an arch with some big ears on it, and some other things, and then I went to float, and I learned more about the decorating side of things, and then I really got start getting some decorating jobs, and I learned that I really enjoy decorating, and I enjoy making like high scale, high end decorations. And so I'm really trying to break into the corporate and wedding market right now, and my brand does not really that, and so that kind of hinders me a little bit. Say that I probably would have stayed as a hobbyist for a little while. I would have learned a lot more about business before jumping in and trying to establish as a business. But at the same time, I learned from those mistakes and from the journey that I've been on, that I wouldn't trade that for anything, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so much out there. Um, it's funny because every time someone says Brandon, I think about it for a minute and I go, yes, I get it. It's all about Brandon. It's all about making things great. But let's be honest for a minute, and let's be quite clear. As someone who's had a party store in the past, who's had a retail establishment in different malls in the last several years, at the end of the day, sometimes people don't even know the store you're in. They think they're in Party City trying to bring back their Party City returns. Like, really? Like, you didn't even buy that here. Like, for
Right.
them, it's kind of funny. When you think about Brandon, it can be difficult because when, Party City comes to a mind for a lot of people, they kind of forget that there's actually other people out there that do things similar to them.
Right.
But that always is a constant reminder that sometimes Brandon, while it's obviously great to be branded, sometimes it's even your name. Uh, People, don't associate usually U.S. Party Company with U.S. Party Company. They associate U.S. Party Company with, Tristan, for example. So, yeah,
Right.
it definitely has a valid concern that Brandon needs to be taken care of, but it also can have its backfires, and I see it both ways. Um, so tell us what your plans for the future are. I know, listen, it's a tough week, but we're all going to get through this, and at the end of the day, I'm sure we'll all be better people from it. And it's kind of crazy to think that wow, it took this moment to bring families together, but that's a different story for a different day. So just take us to what you think your future looks like in balloons, and what you're really trying to foster towards.
So, as far as my future, I'm just going to keep on plugging away. I've had some ups and downs. Um, when you're trying to establish your brand, and trying to get out there and market and kind of take over your city, if you will, it has its ups and downs. And then itself, has its ups and downs. It has its slow seasons. It has its busy seasons. So taking this slow season, just a really slow season. I've been focusing on taking some marketing courses. I've been focusing on taking some wedding courses. As far as I mentioned, I'm trying to break into the wedding market. I've got a couple of weddings booked for this year. but I'm trying to take some courses on how to better engage and better connect with those brides, better serve them. And I'm also taking the time to work on new designs for twisting. I'm reorganizing my shop, I'm thankful. I still have a full-time job. I was hoping at the end of this year maybe to be able to go full-time. We'll have to see how this thing shakes out if that happens. But we're gonna survive. We're gonna keep on going through it, and hopefully, I really want to make it to Twist and Shout next year. So hopefully that will still be. Hopefully this thing will clear up real soon, and we'll all be able to get back to business and like it never happened. That's kind of my plan.
Now, in closing, I know like this was kind of a loaded question, so I'm going to ask you three
Okay.
people who you find are very influential to you in your business. I know it's hard to pick just three, but I mean,
Yeah.
we could go on all day long.
there's so number one, I would have to say Steve Jones, and that's not just because he's the executive producer of Float, but he's one of those people that you can tell that he has a heart for this industry, and not just for his business, and not just for his convention, but he has a heart for this industry. Whether he's responding thread or whether I'm having a conversation with him on the side through Messenger or whatever, when he has something to say, I stop what I'm doing and listen to what he has to say, and I read what he says, and I take it to heart. I also mentioned Christopher Weed. I don't know him on a personal level, but it's funny, and I don't know if he's gonna watch this, and I don't mean any offense in any way, but when I first got into the Balloon Friends group and all these groups, I used to think, man, that guy's but when I started to learn more about business and learn more about balloons, I realized that he really knows what he's talking about. And seems like he's been around for a really long time. And so when I see him engaging with things, or sometimes I'll ask him questions based on stuff that he posts or talks about, I really listen to what he has to say. And then, man, it's really hard. It's really hard to pick a third, honestly. There's a lot of great twisters out there that have a lot to say, that put a lot out there, and there's a lot of great decorators that have a lot to say, that put a lot out there. It's really hard to pick. Order. I guess I'll put a plug in for her as well. She's like the pricing queen, and she really kind of took me to the side, and we'd kind of developed a friendship, and she would ask me questions on pricing, or what would you do about this, or how would I treat this, and she would kind of quiz me and help me figure out my price points, and figure out how to determine my direct and indirect costs and my profit margins, and price accordingly. And so she has been very influential in that regard. But there's so many people um, that are influential.
Right. And closing thoughts. What do you think the industry can do to support each other, given what's going on in this very trying times? There's a lot of closures. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I generally go to Panera Bread for
Yeah.
my cheese Brittany or my cherry Brittany, to be honest, and I'm devastated for 2 weeks. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
What kind of words do you have on that note?
So I've seen, especially in like the Twister groups, I think it's a little bit more challenging maybe for the decorators to do stuff. Like I know Michael Bay, he's been doing kind of like some Facebook Live tutorial things. He says, hey, if you can donate, that's great. If you can't, send some later. If you just can't do it, enjoy the content. And I think that's great. I also saw Brian Getz, I believe is who it was. He threw together some tutorials real quick, or maybe he already had them. I'm not sure. But he was like, if you want some tutorials, if you need some new content, I will send you these, free of charge. Pay for them now or later. However you can do it. So I think as an industry, we need to come together and just be sensitive to the needs of others. Like some people have, businesses that have been around, maybe they have some money stashed up. They can do things like provide a couple tutorials to help some people out or whatever, and others are just struggling. And so maybe it's nice for those people to be able to provide opportunities. Struggling. I know myself. I've kind of, I don't want to say I've taken from the balloon industry, but I can't afford a lot right now. I found some other, marketing experts that are doing some marketing stuff. So, and they're offering it for free. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to take some marketing classes and glean as much info as I can from there. But as an industry, I think that, just supporting each other by providing content or answering those questions, things like this, these balloon talks, these are great because I think we've been on for about 15 minutes. We may have said something, maybe 45 minutes, 45 seconds of useful information to somebody, but it's just that little nugget that might spark an idea. And then sharing those ideas. If you found something to be successful, like I saw somebody was doing deliverables and they were setting them up and never had to make contact. So that's with the social distancing, that's like kind of perfectly acceptable. That we're in right now. So, I started kind of advertising those. I haven't had any hits on it yet, but stuff like that. I think that's how we can support each other.
It's funny you say that because I do notice that. I mean, it's kind of like, I think the first person I saw was Jordan. Jordan, who's local. He's a singer. He's actually a DJ as well. And I saw that he was doing like a concert in his house for like an hour or two. I don't know if this was, Monday or Tuesday. But I remember seeing the link that said if you want to donate, and people were like, donate, why? Why would we donate? What's the cause? You know what I'm saying? Like, people didn't get it, I think you're right. We're all in this together.
Right.
If we can offer something cool that someone enjoyed themselves with, and we can spare $1 or $2 or $3, I mean, maybe that's all we can afford. Maybe we can't afford the $100 commitment right now. There's plenty of people, and you're right. Michael Bay has, said that he would continue to try to doing free things and donate to what you think it's worth. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all going to get back on our feet. We're all going to make money, and we're all going to be better people from it. So I just want to thank you, Brady, for joining me with Balloon Talk. I had a great time. And,
thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. And stay safe, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Talk to you later.